By the end of this video, you will have learnt every single piece of grammar in the GENKI I textbook. Thanks to over 470 video game examples taken from over 150 video games throughout video game history. My name's Matt and welcome to my video game textbook. As we work through all of the grammar points in the GENKI I textbook, I'll try and be as concise as possible while also giving detailed explanations of all of the grammar points, with examples taken from scenes from all of your favorite video games to help both give you context as well as give you visual connection to each of these pieces of grammar points being used, so that you can learn Japanese the most enjoyable way possible with video games. So without further ado, let's get started. The topic marker wa tells us what the speaker is currently talking about. It marks the topic of conversation. To use the wa particle, simply follow whatever it is you want to add information about with the wa particle, and then follow with that information. This is often things like general facts, truths, or statements about that thing. Like in the opening example, asking information about Cloud. Does he like flowers? So just remember that whatever follows this wa topic marker will be information about what comes before it. Like for example, watashi wa Mato desu. I am Matt. So information about me that I am Matt. Or for example, watashi wa 36 sai desu. I am 36 years old. Again, watashi wa information about me, as for me, or speaking of me, and then the following information that I'm 36 years old.
あの手のモンスターは弱いものから襲う。
それであなたは？
僕は伊田哲也です。
彼は人類の敵ではありません。
ラティクス・ファーレンスです。
ミリー・キリートです。
Des. This is the polite way to state is, am, or are in Japanese. It ends the sentence and states that something is in a polite way, like we just saw being used to state politely who they are. Here being used following the person's name to express politely that they are Mili Kirito, and can be used following all kinds of different things like nouns and adjectives to state politely that it is that way. However, just keep in mind that you can't use des following verbs, as they actually have their own polite form that you'll learn a little bit later.
俺はリク。僕は梶本です。
お名前は？
夏野。南夏野です。お客様、名前は何ですか？
The question particle ka. This is used simply to turn a sentence into a question. Simply add it to the end of the sentence and you change that statement into a question. Like here, namae wa, as for your name, nan desu ka? What is it? Here we see it being used following the polite stating des to ask a polite question. But just be careful when used in casual speech, which we'll learn a little bit later, it actually makes the sentence quite strong and direct. And so in casual speech, it's more often just dropped and replaced with a rising question tone of voice instead. However, it's totally fine to use in polite speech, like we often see with des, turning it into desu ka.
あなたは誰なんですか？
この巨人は何ですか？
まさか本当ですか？
本当だ。俺の名前はデイビッドだ。オタコン。僕はハルだよ。
The not particle connects two nouns together, often with the latter noun being kind of the main noun that has information like possession added to it. This is often seen translated as kind of like of, or the possessive s, like Mats. Like here seen with my name is David. Literally it would be, as for the name of me, it is David. So, ore no namae wa, as for the name of me, Davido, it's David. Or like a magic book, maho no hon. Again, we know the primary noun here is the last one, hon, book, and then the not particle is connecting it to the other noun for magic, so it modifies the noun, hon, and adds information about what kind of book it is. It's a book of magic, or just a magic book.
こんなところに何があるの？
魔法の本や。
本？これが魔法の本？
せや、 俺の犬の名前は相撲。ペットの名前は相撲です。
僕の名前はウェルキン。君たちは？
我々はブルールの自警団のものです。
これはお父さんのライトセーバーだ。
In Japanese, there are certain words that begin with the same sound, ko, so, a, and do. And these are used for objects, people, places, directions, depending on the word ending, such as the first set here, being used to talk about objects, such as kore, this, sore, that. So see, it has the same word ending, kore, sore, are, that over there, dore, which. These words are used to refer to a thing or a one, like this thing or this one. The ko sound is used when things are close relative to the speaker, so near the speaker. The words beginning with so are generally used to talk about things that are close to the listener, like there, sore. The words beginning with a are often used for things that are far both from the speaker and the listener, so like over there, are, and do is used with questions, like dore, which, or which one.
これが目的なんだろ。
それは
光ディスクだ。
あれは何です？
石の惑星クレイトよ。
どれが食べたいですか？
この戦はまだ終わっちゃいねえ。
The next set are used to refer to specific nouns that are connected with the not particle. So here with kono, sono, ano, and dono. So it's used to connect to a specific noun like kono ikusa, this battle, or sono iikata, that way of speaking, ano ie, that house over there, dono hito, which person.
その言い方は僕はあまり好きじゃないんだ。
ビサイド村だ。
食べ物ある？
後であの家で食わせてやる。
いやはや、どの女の子もかなりレベルが高いぜ。
ダルマスカの風がこれほど懐かしいとはな。
ここどこだ？
And now finally looking at the words that are used to refer to places. This being koko, soko, asoko, and doko. So koko is used to refer to this place, here. Soko, that place, so there. Asoko, that place over there. And doko, which place, where. So like we saw in this clip, koko, doko da. So koko, here, doko da, where is it?
家に電話してみようかな。そこに電話ボックスあるよ。
おい、あそこ。
ボスら、どこだ？どこにいる？
本当か？
本当です。
ちょっと待て。それどういうことだ？一体誰の命令だ？
誰の whose. This is used when asking who something belongs to, as it's a combination of the word dare for who and that possessive not particle, so of who, whose. Like for example, dare no hon, whose book, or as we just saw, dare no mere, whose order. So very simply, dare no is just used to ask about the ownership of a noun, whose ...
なぜだ？誰のために何を守っている？
ここが誰の庭だと思っている？
ねえおばちゃん、誰の墓参りをしているの？
世界を変えようと思ったんだ。
誰のために？
彼女のために。お二方は下がってください。
いいえ、私も戦います。
Mo means also or to, and this is actually used as a replacement for the wa, ga, and o particles. And it's used to show repetition or inclusion, like to, also, or as well does in English. So just like how I could say, watashi wa matto desu, I am Matt. Someone who's also Matt could say, watashi mo matto desu, I'm also Matt. Or like in this clip, I will fight too. Watashi mo tatakaimasu.
エレン、私も行く。
気に食わねえ野郎だ。
奇遇ですね。私もあなたが気に入らないのですよ。
おかしいわ。私も能力が使えない。
ああ、俺も依存はない。先生もそれでいいか？
俺たちは敵じゃない。
Janai is the casual negative form of des, to be. So janai, to not be, is used following nouns and na-adjectives to express not being that noun or not being that na-adjective, like gakusei janai, to not be a student, or teki janai, to not be an enemy. And you can also make this polite by adding des after janai. Janai des, gakusei janai des, teki janai desu. Janai is actually a contraction of dewa nai, so that dewa just gets contracted into ja, so janai. And so you may actually see it used as dewa nai in more formal situations. And actually this nai can also be made polite by putting it into its polite form, arimasen. So for a more polite and formal situation, you may see dewa or ja arimasen to mean to not be.
うるさい！お前は私の親じゃない。
これは罪ではない。これ自体に罪はない。
わしは敵じゃありませんよ、龍馬さん。
ティーダさん、そんなこと言ってる場合じゃないです。
やっと会えたね、母さん。
Ne is a sentence-ending particle that's used to seek confirmation or agreement of what's being said by the listener. Very similar to how in English we might say, right? Isn't it? To use it, put it at the very end of a sentence, like seen here in Yatto aeta ne. We're finally able to meet again, huh? So here we can see it's being used to kind of express this feeling of seeking confirmation of what was just said, like huh or right.
立ったまま寝るのって難しいね。
じゃあ、ゾン、ザックス、後でね。
うわー、すごいね。
お久しぶりですね、八神先生。
おはようございます。
いやー、いいお天気ですね。やっとお話できてどんなに嬉しいことか。ここ何日も伺っていたんですよ。緊急の要件なんです、本当に。
The particle yo is another sentence-ending particle that now is used to add emphasis or new information to the listener. Very similar to kind of like a you know or I tell you. I like to look at this as kind of like the informer particle, as it's often used to either teach or inform the listener of some sort of assumed unknown information or emphasis and push on known information. Like for example, kowai yo. If you didn't use the yo particle here, it would just be a simple statement. Kowai, it's scary. But with the yo particle here, it really has this feeling of informing the listener, almost teaching them that information that it is scary. Like, it's scary, you know? Or it's scary, I tell ya. Kowai yo.
この人、必死すぎて怖いよ。
ああ、彼女？
ええ、俺を待っててくれてるんですよ。
大変だよ。さっき外行ってたんだけど、君の言ってたリンってのがやばいよ。
帰りたくない。帰りたくないよ。大丈夫ですか？
もちろんですよ。
おじちゃんテレビ見るの好き？
好きだよ。
In modern Japanese, there are two different types of verbs, Godan and Ichidan verbs. Firstly, taking a look at Ichidan verbs, also known as ru verbs, as they are verbs that end in an eru or iru sound, like taberu, to eat, eru, taberu, or okiru, to wake up, that's an iru, okiru. All Ichidan verbs end in these sounds. However, not all verbs that end in these sounds are Ichidan verbs. There are some exceptions to be careful of, like kaeru, to return, or kiru, to cut. These are actually Godan Verbs. These Ichidan verbs are the simplest to conjugate in all of the different forms like past tense, polite tense, negative tense, and so on, as all you have to do to conjugate an Ichidan verb is just drop the ru and add the conjugation at the end. It's that simple.
人と一緒にお昼を食べるのは久しぶりなので緊張します。
これを着るんだ。テロリストの服装？
私、寝るわよ。
早いね、起きるの。
飲むと元気が出るぞ。
Godan verbs, also known as verbs, are now every other verb. So generally, any verb that ends in a consonant sound plus an like nomu, to drink, so the mu, nomu, or hanasu, to talk, or kiku, to listen. However, as said before, there are some exceptions, and there are actually some verbs that end in a ru but are actually Godan verbs, not Ichidan, like kaeru, to return, or kiru, to cut. So just be aware of that. Godan verbs are much trickier to conjugate, as you often need to change the way you conjugate the verb based on the final sound, which actually follows 5 different rules, which is what the go represents. That's the word for 5.
これを読むんですかの？
聞いたら話す？話す気ないんでしょ。
奴らに全てを聞く。
いつ行くよ。
無理するな。もう一つ確認したいことがある。
Now, there are also 3 verbs that are exceptions, so they don't follow any of the previous rules. And so these irregular verb exceptions are aru, to exist, or to be, kuru, to come, and suru, to do. These follow their own conjugation rules, so just be careful of these 3 verbs, as they behave in their own unique way.
やっぱり森の近くに来ると空気がしっとりしてて美味しいな。
どうなってる？
事情は後で説明するね。
暖かくなったので虫の姿はよく見ますね。
So now, if we want to turn an Ichidan verb into the polite form, referred to as the present tense in the GENKI I textbook, this polite form is simply the form that you would use when you're speaking in Japanese in a polite manner. And so when you're conjugating a verb into the polite form, first you need to know what type of verb it is, and then conjugate it accordingly. As mentioned before, Ichidan verbs are incredibly simple. You just drop the ru and add mas to create the polite present affirmative, or masen for the polite present negative. So very simply, verbs like miru, to look or to see, turns into mimasu, or mimasen. Taberu, to eat, turns into tabemasu, or tabemasen for the polite negative.
はい、私の国ではコーヒーと一緒に食べますね。
こちらの店舗は飲食店として役所に届けております。しかし2階に上がった客は食事など食べません。
次々と厄介が起きますね。今さら気づいたのか。
猛虎だ。
あら、ここからでは見えませんでした。
大丈夫ですよ。僕らなら外で寝ますから。
何か見えるのか？
何も見えません。
え？悟空じゃない。どういうことだ？わかりません。
水飲みますか？
Godan verbs are now much trickier to conjugate, as we need to conjugate based on the final sound, and also follow specific conjugation rules for that sound. The polite form, however, is pretty simple. You need to change that final u sound into an I sound, and then add mas or masen. So for example, nomu, to drink. We have a mu sound, so we need to change that into a mi and then add mas. So nomu turns into nomimasu. Kiku, to hear or to listen, turns into kikimasu. Asobu, to play or to hang out, turns into asobimasu. And the same is true for the negative polite as well. Just replace mas with masen. Kikimasen, to not hear. Asobimasen, to not play.
もう一度聞きます。小島陽子さんとは一体何があったんですか？
何人で遊びますか？
言いづらい事情があるようですね。無理には聞きません。
話したくなったら教えてください。
あなたにお話があります。いいですか？
And as mentioned, there are 3 exceptions. 3 verbs that don't follow any of the group's rules. And that's aru to exist, kuru to come, and suru to do. To turn these into the polite form, just remember that aru turns into arimasu, kuru turns into kimasu, and suru turns into shimasu. With the negative form being straightforward, just change the mas into masen. So arimasen to not exist, kimasen to not come, and shimasen to not do.
すぐに警察や消防が来ます。我々は彼らに見られるわけにはいきません。
私、シンを倒します。必ず倒します。花嫁衣装を着られる日が来た。こんなに嬉しいことはありません。
いかなる理由があろうと、私に逆らうことは許されることではありません。
今晩お食事ご一緒しません？
お前は学生だろ。学校に行く時間がないってどういうことだ？
So as we just saw, there are 2 different ways you can have a verb in the present tense, both the casual dictionary form or the polite form. And this present tense is used to express either a habitual action, like things you do regularly, or a future action, like things you will do, actions that you plan to do. And so you can express the present tense both in casual Japanese, the plain form, like iku, to go, gakko ni iku, to go to school. So this could both mean that you go to school like regularly or that you will go to school, which can be made a bit more clear by adding some information before the statement, like mainichi gakko ni iku, I go to school every day. Or perhaps for a future action, ashita gakko ni iku, I will go to school tomorrow. This present tense can be used in both situations. And this can be expressed both in casual Japanese as well as polite, like gakko ni ikimasu, I go to school.
毎日学校に行くことがテストみたいなものだよ。学生らしい生活に戻らないと。
ティファちゃんが男連れ？明日はセブンセブンに行くよ。
明日5番街に行く。住み込みの仕事を探すんだ。
澤先生、もう職員会議が始まりますけど。あ、すぐに行きます。
とにかく水を探そう。水を飲みたい。
The o particle marks the direct object of the verb, this meaning the thing that is being acted upon by the verb. And so the o particle is placed after a noun and then followed with a verb, marking what noun is the direct object of the verb, like kohi o nomu, to drink coffee. So the o here is marking what gets drunk, to drink coffee, or terebi o miru, to watch TV. So this o particle marks what is being watched, the TV. Or like we saw in the opening example, mizu o sagaso, let's search for water. So what is being searched for, the direct object of the verb, is marked by the o particle, mizu o, water.
薬を飲まないとね。ラジオを聞く方が好きかな。
そこのテレビを見てみろ。
ああ、こんな暑い日にこそ冷たいスイカを食べたいな。
もう居場所がなくて。だから家を出たんだよね。
この道を通るのも3年ぶりか。懐かしいな。
夕ご飯食べるでしょ。作っておくわね。
学校でそういう話はやめてよ。
The det particle now marks the place or even means of an action. It's almost like having an X marks the spot. That is the spot where the action occurs. Like 学校で勉強する. So the det here functions almost like pointing your finger at the spot where you are studying. At school. 学校で. However, it can also be used to mark the means of something. By what means an action is done. Like 箸で食べる. To eat with or by chopsticks, or ナイフで刺された, so stabbed with a knife. So the det here marks the means which the action was done, with chopsticks or with a knife. There are also some other uses that you'll learn later as well, like for example, 日本語で in Japanese, speak, 話す. So you could say to speak in Japanese is 日本語で話す.
この学校で売っているのか、あの時の焼きそばパンが。
こういう場所でプリンを食べたいよね。そもそも箸で食事する国もそう多くないだろうし。
お前その包丁で刺されたんだろ。
何それ、日本語で言ってくださいよ。
地球に移動したナメック星人たちやベジータはしばらくの間ブルマの家に住むことになった。
The neat particle is one of the most complicated particles in all of Japanese, as it has many different meanings and subtleties to it. But the main uses we're going to focus on at this level is how the neat particle can be used to mark where something exists, where something goes, like the destination of movement, or even when something happens. So first, when used with verbs of existence, like iru, to exist, or sumu, to live, you can use the neat particle to mark where you exist or where you live by following the place with the neat particle, marking where it is you are, and then followed with that state verb. So like here, to live in Bulma's house. Buruma no ie ni sumu. Ni can also be used to express where something goes, as in the destination, like gakko ni iku, to go to school, or kyoto ni iku, to go to Kyoto. And ni is also used to mark the time when something occurs, like shichiji ni kaeru, to return at 7 o'clock. So like as we can see here, used in two different ways. Konna toki ni, at a time like this. Toire ni iku, go to the toilet. Just be careful though, as this use of the neat particle, when used with time, is used when the time reference is not relative to your time. Like for example, today, kyo, or tomorrow, ashita. In these situations, you cannot use the neat particle for time, only with a set time frame, like 7 o'clock, or March, Tuesday, and so on. These time frames are always the same time frame, so you can use the neat particle for those. There are some exceptions using neat that can be relative time to your current time, such as being used with words like 3日前, 3 days ago, and 翌日, the next day. However, normally neat is not used with vague or relative time expressions that don't pinpoint an exact moment, such as 今日, today, 来年, next year, and 先週, last week. You normally don't use the neat particle with these relative time expressions.
この村に住む者たちは戦いから逃げてきた平和主義者しかいません。
明日広島に行く。ハルトも一緒だ。待てナグモ、どこに行くつもりだ。
いつも夜の7時には家に帰ってくるよ。
なんでこんな時にトイレに行きたくなるのよ。
いよいよこれから君の物語の始まりだ。夢と冒険とポケットモンスターの世界へ。レッツゴー!
Finally, the e particle, written as he but pronounced as e. This is used to emphasize the journey or the path to a certain destination. But the focus here is really on that journey to that place, the direction in which you travel, rather than the point you're focusing on like the neat particle. E is for that journey, the movement to that place. And because of this similarity, you can often use the e particle in place of the neat particle when used to talk about direction of movement, like 学校へ to school. And this gives a kind of feeling like the journey to school, or like we saw in the opening, to the world of Pokemon. Poketo Monster no Sekai e.
リンクシーカーストーンのマップに示された場所へ向かうのです。
行くのかい
7番街へ行くにはどうすればいい？
お城へはクロノ、あんたが送りなさいよ。ちゃんとエスコートしてあげるのよ。
お待ちしておりました。こちらへどうぞ。
ボルグさん、せっかく会えた。好
少し話しませんか?
Masenka is a polite way to invite someone or suggest that they do an action. Like, would you like to? Shall we? And this is just the polite negative, masen, combined with the question particle, ka. Literally, it's like, won't you? In English, when used as an invitation. Like, won't you chat a little? 少し話しませんか? Or, 一緒に来ませんか? Won't you come together with us?
よかったら僕たちと一緒に来ませんか? これから孫悟空さんを出迎えに行きます。一緒に行きませんか?
今晩お食事ご一緒しません?
時々遊びに来てもいいですか?
もちろんだ。
Frequency adverbs are adverbs that are placed before an action to express how often you do that action, such as 毎日, every day, よく, often, 時々, sometimes, あまり, used with negative verbs to mean not often, or 全然, also used with negative verbs to mean not at all. So you put these adverbs before a verb to express how often you do that action.
俺バンタムでよく飲んでるんで、お暇な時にでもいらしてください。
毎日英語の授業があるからうんざりだよ。
全然思い出せないぞ。
ねえねえ、ヒロだって料理をしないの？
そうね。面倒だからあまりしないわ。
あいつこの剣全然使わないんだ。
So in Japanese, every single sentence is comprised of different little sections. And you can actually imagine like a little box around each part of the sentence, which are often separated with particles to show that part's relation to the rest of the sentence. And Japanese is actually pretty flexible in its word order, as a lot of these parts can actually be moved around without changing the meaning of the sentence. Like for example, all of these sentences have the exact same meaning, even though the parts are mixed up. So like for example, I eat lunch at the park. A very standard way of expressing this would be 公園で at the park, 昼ご飯を lunch, 食べる to eat. And so you could actually visualize this sentence being broken up by these two particles. So we have the de particle marking place of action, 公園で at the park. We have the o particle marking what it is we do an action to, ご飯を. And then finally we have the verb at the end, 食べる to eat. So aside from the verb having to be at the end of the sentence, the other parts can actually be mixed up. You can freely move the different parts around without changing the meaning of the sentence. That being said though, there is a general guideline that you can use to help visualize what a standard sentence might look like. Often you'll start a sentence with the topic, what you're talking about, this being marked by the what topic marker, and then with following detail coming after that, like time, place, object, and then finishing with the verb. Or even set the topic and then frequency, time, goal, and then the verb. So just keep in mind that you can actually move these parts around without changing the meaning of the sentence, just the feeling and the flow. But just make sure you must have the verb at the end of a sentence in Japanese.
海の底に昔の遺跡があるの。
Next we have aru and iru. You can use these two verbs to express existence in Japanese. Aru, or the polite arimasu, is used for inanimate objects, things that are not living, like books, tables, cars, things like that. And iru, or imasu, is used for living things, like people. And these both mean for something or someone to exist. And so when you want to express that there is something or someone, or even you have something or someone, you can use these verbs to express this, often paired with the ga subject marker that we'll learn about later in this video to mark what exists. Like, omise ga aru, there is a shop. So we have the noun here, mise, or omise for a shop. Ga is then marking what is doing the action or being a certain way, and then followed by the action aru, to exist. So a shop is what exists. There is a shop. Or like with iru, to exist, kyoju ga imasen. The professor is not here. There is no professor. And it can also be used for things like events, like a test. Testo ga arimasu. There is, or I have, a test. But the ga subject marker doesn't always have to be used, like in questions. Dareka imasu ka? Is there someone there? The reason why you don't use the ga particle here in questions is because the ga particle kind of points the finger at something. This is what exists. which would be very unnatural to use in a question. What is, this is what is exists, it just doesn't work.
エアリス、近くにセブンスヘブンってお店があるの。
ここに俺がいる理由はもうない。
ではあなたたちに見てほしいものがあります。
すいません、誰かいますか？
さあ、そんなことに興味ありません。
はいはいはい、教授がいません。
いや、俺の前であいつの話はするな。
And so in Japanese, you can describe the location of an object in relation to another object with the following structure. Noun 1 wa, noun 2 no, location. So here what we do is we set the main noun that we're going to be talking about with the wa particle as for that noun, and then follow it with another noun connected to a location with the not particle, showing where the first noun exists in relation to noun 2. Like for example, boru wa, as for the ball, so we're going to be adding information about a ball, Pikachu no migi, it's to the right of Pikachu. And there are a whole bunch of different ways to describe where something is. Like for example, to the left of something, Pikachu no hidari, in front of Pikachu, Pikachu no mae, behind Pikachu, Pikachu no ushiro, inside Pikachu, Pikachu no naka, above Pikachu, Pikachu no ue, below Pikachu, Pikachu no shita, near Pikachu, Pikachu no chikaku, or right beside Pikachu, Pikachu no tonari, as well as many other location nouns that you can use to express where something is in relation to another noun. Simply modify the second noun with the not particle followed by that location, and you can express where something is in relation to that noun. Literally to the right of dun dun dun.
今どこ？そのメタルギアの前だ。あの右の端末を使えば訓練プログラムが始まる。どこだ？
カムロ町の中ですよ。
マックス、ありがとう。助かった。USB は机の上だよ。
集合場所は海の家の隣だよ。
メタルギアはその下だ。急いでくれ。
厳しいけれど強く優しい方でした。
Next, we have how to express the past polite tense of nouns and na-adjectives. These are also known as adjectival nouns. To create the past polite form, simply turn des into deshita, following a noun or a na-adjective. So, kirei desu, it is pretty, turns into kirei deshita, it was pretty. Or like with nouns, seito for a student, seito deshita, was a student. You can also form the negative form for nouns and na-adjectives with janai to not be, or janai desu to say it politely, it is not. Or even in a bit more formal speech, ja arimasen. And for the polite past negative, follow that noun or na-adjective with janakatta desu, or ja arimasen deshita, to express was not.
やはり清涼高校の生徒でした。
あんた、ボスじゃない。ボスは死んだ。
本人じゃないですよね。
全然不自然ではないです。
私の知っている兄は強い人じゃなかった。
大変でしたが無駄足じゃなかったですね。
今、二つの魂があなたの元へ帰りました。
Now for the past and negative form for polite verbs. Simply take that must form that we add to verbs to make it polite and turn it into mashita for the past tense. So kaerimasu to return would be kaerimashita, returned, or nomimasu to drink, nomimashita, drunk. Then finally, to turn polite verbs into the past negative, we get the negative polite, masen, and then we add deshita at the end, like wakarimasen, to not understand, into wakarimasen deshita, I did not understand.
また会えましたね、ケンシロウさん。
問題ありません。サレトーマはちゃんと飲みました。久野さん、いませんか？
こちらチーム C、異常ありません。
すみません。よくわかりませんでした。
そんなことが全然知りませんでした。
仕込みに染み込ませてある毒にも注意しろ。少しでも体内に入れば それこそ命取りじゃぞ。
So we've previously learned that we can replace the wa, ga, and o particles with mo to express inclusion, like to or also. However, when you want to use it with the ni or de particles, you can simply follow these particles with mo, forming either nimo or demo. This now gives a meaning kind of like also at or also to, even to, like Kyoto ni mo ikeru. You can also go to Kyoto, or like with the de particle at, kono gakkou demo, even at this school.
これグランパレスにも行けるよ。
もう13年前になるんですけど、この学校でもいじめ自殺が起きてました。
一匹ずつ狙いを定めるのだ。そうだ、他の敵にも注視してみろ。
なのに
やめてくれ。
俺だけのもの、俺だけの女、振り合い、誰にも渡さない、振り合いは渡さない、誰にも誰にも誰にも、皆無にも。
違うんだ。
グレートサイヤマンだ。ゆうべ2時間も練習したもんね。
You can express the duration of hours an activity is done with jikan following a number to express that many hours of time the action is done. Like ichijikan means 1 hour, 1 hour's time. Or like we saw in the example clip, nijikan mo, 2 hours also, or even 2 hours, renshu shita, I practiced. Or 12 jikan nemashita, I slept for 12 hours. This can be used by itself without a particle following. It can be used with the mo particle following to express an emphasis on that duration. And you can even express an approximate with gurai, meaning around, like ichijikan gurai, around 1 hour. And you can even express how many hours and a half by adding the word for half, han, following jikan, the period of time, like 3.5 hours, 3時間半。
12時間も爆睡してましたもんね。
札幌まで何時間ぐらい？
どう気分は？あなた12時間も寝てたのよ、ずっと。
ずっと話を聞いてたんだ。
3時間半ずっとね。
配信が始まってから1時間後、午前2時ぐらいだったと思う。マナナ、
今日はたくさん歩きましたもん。
Taksan, meaning a lot or many, can be put before nouns or verbs to express either there being a lot of that noun or doing a lot of that action. When put before a noun with the not particle, it modifies that noun. So like there being a lot of that noun. And when used by itself without the not particle, it modifies the verb in the sentence, even if it's not directly in front of it, expressing doing a lot of that action. So like, takusan arukimashita, I walked a lot. So the action of walking, the speaker did a lot. Or like, takusan no Pokemon, many Pokemon ga kurashiteru, they are living. So there are a lot of Pokemon living here.
この自然の中、いろんな場所でたくさんのポケモンが暮らしてて、マットとの出会いを待ってるよ。
それでたくさんお金を稼げるんだって。
機械の武器をたくさん使った戦争があったんだって。
僕たちの仲間をたくさん殺してきた相手です。
あなたが学ぶべきことはたくさんあります。まだやることがたくさんある。助けるのは無理よ。兵士がたくさんいるの。巨人と人類との間には圧倒的な力の差が存在し。
The to particle is used as kind of like a connector particle. It connects two nouns together in an exhaustive list, meaning that it's just talking about the two things listed. So used in between two nouns, like the Japanese language and the English language. Nihongo to eigo, Japanese and English. Or Kyoto to Osaka, Kyoto and Osaka. Or like we saw in Attack on Titan, the Titans and humankind. Kyojin to Jinrui. The to particle can also be used to express doing an action together with someone, like koibito to iku, to go together with your lover, like your boyfriend or your girlfriend. And there are also other functions like quoting information, or quoting what someone said or what someone thinks, that we'll see later in this video.
俺は酒と女に金使うのが唯一の趣味だったんだよ。
俺とアルと母さんとまた楽しく暮らせるなら
母さんだって喜んでくれるよ。
父さんはいつもお前と一緒にいるよ。
羨ましい。こいつクリスマスは恋人とショー見に行くんだってさ。
だから最後の瞬間まで君と一緒にいさせてほしい。
そんな貴様らに我々が巨人と戦う術を叩き込んでやる。
たまには美味しいものも食べて。
In Japanese, as you may have already seen in this video, there are actually two different types of adjectives. We have I-Adjectives, these are a bit more traditional adjectives, and Na-Adjectives, these are like nouns, as they're actually adjectival nouns. So first, if we take a look at I-Adjectives, all I-Adjectives are adjectives that end in an I sound, like samui, cold, oishii, delicious, tanoshii, fun. Not all adjectives that end in an I are I-Adjectives, but most of them are. And so in casual speech, you can use these I-Adjectives completely by themselves, like samui, it's cold, or attach des at the end to make it polite, like samui desu, or tanoshii desu, it's fun. And to put them into the negative form, you need to drop that last I and replace it with kunai in casual speech, or kunai desu in polite speech. Or even ku arimasen in more formal speech, like samukunai, it's not cold, samukunai desu, samuku arimasen, with there being one exception, the adjective for good, I. In the negative form, you actually have to conjugate it as yokunai, as I actually originates from the word yoi, good, so you need to conjugate it in its original form, yoi, yokunai, not good.
だから誰かと一緒に行動できるって楽しいんです。
感情を持つことは禁止されている。
香りは悲しくないの？
報酬は悪くない。
私はとても元気ですよ。
The next type of adjectives are Na-Adjectives. These act just like nouns, as they technically are. And they can be used as an adjective by following them with the na to then modify the noun that's attached to it, like genki na neko, a lively or an energetic cat. But they can also just be used by themselves in casual speech or in polite speech with des added afterwards, like taisetsu desu, it is important. And they can also be followed by the declarative da in casual speech, more on that in lesson 8. And to turn Na-Adjectives into the negative form, as we saw previously, follow the Na-Adjective with janai, janai desu, or ja arimasen, is not.
元気な猫ちゃんですね。
こんな時こそ規律が最も大切です。
家族って大切なんでしょ？
大切じゃない。
違うわ。メガネが好きなの。昔好きな人がかけてて。
剣よりもお前の方が大切だ。
おはようございます。デートの方どうだった？とても楽しかったです。
Now turning I-Adjectives into the past tense, like was cold or was delicious. We need to change that last I into katta. So like tanoshii, fun, into tanoshikatta, it was fun. And then we can make it polite as well by adding the des at the end, like tanoshikatta desu. For the negative past, you now need to conjugate the I into the negative form, so omoshiroi, interesting, omoshirokunai, not interesting, and now turn that last I in the nai into katta. So omoshiroku nakatta, was not interesting. Or in polite speech, omoshiroku nakatta desu. Or even in formal speech, omoshiroku arimasen deshita, was not interesting.
もういい、悪かった。
怖かったんです、とっても。
あまり美味しくなかったわね。
当たり前です。
面白くなかったですか？
そこに見たままを書き込んだという生徒も少なくありませんでした。君に会えてよかった。
As mentioned before, the I-Adjective for good, I, when turning that into the past tense form, you need to conjugate it as yokatta, as I comes from yoi, good. So the past tense form of good is yokatta or よかったです in polite speech. And for the negative past, よくなかった、よくなかったです or よくありませんでした was not good.
やっぱり一人で残してきたのはあまり良くなかったかもしれないわ。残念でしたね。
Finally, turning Na-Adjectives into the past tense follows the exact same rules as nouns. Follow the Na-Adjective with deshita in polite speech, like 残念でした it was a shame, or 素敵でした it was lovely. And for the negative past, follow it with じゃなかった was not, or じゃなかったです in polite speech, or even じゃありませんでした in formal speech.
いえいえ、駿河様。とっても素敵でしたよ。
ちょっと変じゃなかった？
初めて見た時からシーモは好きじゃなかった。
今、私にとってとても悲しいことが起きている。
You can also express in Japanese to what extent an adjective is by adding a degree adverb before that adjective to modify it, such as ちょっと a little bit, とても very, すごく extremely, like とても悲しい it's very sad, or ちょっと恥ずかしい it's a little bit embarrassing, or すごく綺麗 it's very pretty or very clean.
話すのはちょっと恥ずかしいな。
私はとても元気ですよ。パーティーより僕はこっちがいいな。お水ってすごく綺麗だ。
でもすごく立派な剣だね。喋る剣なんて初めて見たよ。
だって忘れられないだろ、こんな面白い顔。
And when modifying a noun with an adjective, just remember that the I-Adjective goes before the noun, like 面白い顔, an interesting face, and Na-Adjectives have to have the na in between to connect them, like 嫌な予感, to have a bad feeling about something.
怖い時こそ前に進むんだ。
ありがとう。おかげさまで元気いっぱい。
元気な顔が見られて嬉しいよ。
何か嫌な予感がするわ。
どうだ、自分の血の味は。その綺麗なお顔じゃまだ殴られたこともないんじゃねえのか。
あなたが好きです。
マジで。
Now in Japanese, to express liking or disliking something, in Japanese, both of these are actually Na-Adjectives. So you would need to express that something is what is liked or what is disliked with something ga suki or something ga kirai. Ga here marks what is liked or what is disliked. So this sentence, anata ga suki, literally would be you are what is liked. By who we can make more clear by setting the topic of the sentence with the wa particle. So like watashi wa, as for me, so we're going to add information about me, anata ga suki, I like you. Or perhaps something is disliked, terebi ga kirai, TV is what is disliked. And this can also be emphasized more by adding dai in front of them. This is the kanji for big or great. So put it before ski and it turns into daisuki, love. Or put it before kirai and it turns into daikirai, hate. And you can always just modify a noun with ski and kirai as well. Like skina hito, a person that is liked. Or kirai na koto, a thing that is disliked.
この公園が好きなんだ。静かでのどかで落ち着いた感じがして。
わかるよ、その気持ち。
どうしてテレビや新聞が嫌いなんですか？
ああ、もう。
私はその子のことが大好きで、命よりも大切で。
俺は嘘が大嫌いやで。嘘じゃない。
悪いけど俺、今は好きな子いるんだ。
では、日曜学校の教室に行きましょう。
ましょう and ましょうか, let's. So you can use a verb in the volitional form to express an invitation to do that action, like 行きましょう, let's go, or 行きましょうか, shall we go. This is actually just the polite volitional form of a verb, ましょう, so you can also use this in casual speech as well, like 行こう, let's go, 行きましょう, or 行こうか, Shall we go? 行きましょうか? This, however, is casual speech, and it's not as polite as if you use ましょう or ましょうか。
エミール。
さあ、飼い主さんのところに戻りましょう。
私たちも迎えに行こうよ。
ザナルカンドへ行こ
う。そろそろ行きましょうか。
さあ、行こうか。
お前、彼女に指一本でも触れたら。
ユリから1枚のハガキが届きました。
そこのウェイトレスさん、コーヒーをもう一杯もらえるかな。
お願いだ、もう一度見せてくれ、もう一度。
あれ、みんな帰ったの？私一人
？An introduction to Japanese counters. In Japanese, there are many different ways of counting things with counters. And it all depends on the categorization of that thing will determine what kind of counter you might use. So things like books, people, cars, these all have different counters. Like there are counters for small objects, ko, like ikko, one thing. For flat objects, mai, like ichimai, one flat thing. For long objects, hon or pon. And even for counters like cups, hai or pai. There are actually over 100 counters in Japanese for all kinds of different things like chopsticks, zen, counters for grains of rice and so on. However, just for general small counting, you can actually get by using these general counters. Hitotsu, 1, futatsu, 2, or mitsu, 3. And these continue all the way to 10. However, once you start getting to 10, it's much more common to just use the other counter for small things, ko.
しかし、一つわからんことがある。
そして、二つ目の願いを言う。
ストランドには3つの意味がある。
これを見て。
The Te-Form in Japanese is an incredibly important piece of conjugation that is used in so many different ways in Japanese to express a lot of different things. Like you can connect two actions together, two adjectives, and you can even use it with certain expressions like please, te kudasai, or may I, te mo ii, and many more ways that we'll take a look at. But first, how do we create the Te-Form? This can actually be quite complex depending on the type of verb. As we saw, Godan verbs are a little bit tricky to conjugate as it all depends on the final sound of that verb. But first, Ichidan verbs or ru verbs are really simple. Just drop ru and add te. That's it. So, taberu, tabete.
昨日から何も食べてないんでしょ?
For Godan verbs or u verbs, there are 5 different rules that you need to remember. So for all Godan verbs that end in a u, tsu, or ru, you need to replace that final sound with a te. That's with a small gap in between. Te, like ao to meet turns into atte. Matsu to wait turns into matte. And kaeru to return turns into kaette.
よ、聞こえるか悟空。あの世で死んだ神様に会ってさ。
やっと来たようだな、孫悟空。待っていたぞ。
ある日、海へトレーニングに行ったまま、帰ってこなかった。
Next, for verbs ending in mu, bu, or nu, you need to replace that final sound with nde. So, yasumu to rest, yasunde. Yobu to call, yonde. Shinu to die, shinde. So these all have a de sound at the end.
ゆっくり休んでくれ。
死んでもらおうか。
ちょっと大丈夫っすか？
動かない方がいいって。今救急車呼んでるから。
For verbs ending in ku, like kiku to hear or to ask, replace the final sound ku with ite. So kiku turns into kiite.
あんたの口から聞いておきたい。イタチのすべてを。
Verbs ending in gu, like oyogu to swim, you need to replace that final gu with ide. So like oyoide.
ここ水の中。すごい。魚まで泳いでる。
Verbs ending in a su, like hanasu to talk, you need to turn the su into shite. So hanashite.
いや、話してくれてありがとう。
セレナ、
皆と会う前に話しておきたいことが。
And finally, there are 3 exceptions. Iku to go turns into itte, suru to do turns into shite, and kuru to come turns into kite.
俺お腹痛いからトイレ行ってくんね。
スネーク、ヘビね。私はエヴァ。誘惑してみる？
静かにしてください。
は？
会社の先輩来てんだよ。
誰かヨナを助けてください。誰か！
Once you're finally comfortable with how to use the te form, there are now a wide variety of different ways you can express yourself in Japanese using this form. Like, for example, using the te form followed by kudasai, please. This is used to request that someone do an action in a polite way, like please do that action. So like, tasukete kudasai, please save her. Or matte kudasai, please wait. Shinde kudasai, please die. Or wasurete kudasai, please forget.
ちょっと待ってくださいね。
ここで全員死んでください。
もうそのことは忘れてくださ
い。いっぱい笑っていっぱい泣いてヒーローになろう。一緒に戦おう。
Te can also be used to combine actions together in a kind of sequential order of events. This is very similar to the comma and in English. Like you went to school and then you studied. It shows the sequential order of events. Like tabete neru, eat and then sleep. And the tense of the whole series of actions is set by the final verb. So if you wanted to say that you ate and then slept, you would say tabete neta.
アクセスユニットは汚染されています。格納庫に行って飛行ユニットを奪いましょう。
レジスタンスに接触して彼女を見つけ出してくれ。これが最後のチャンスだ。
親父はすごかった。視界球を分解してそのコア部分を使ってこれを作り出したんだ。
私たち2人のどっちを見てドキドキしたの？それ聞いちゃうの？
その船お借りしてもいいですか？
Temoi is a way of expressing permission to do an action. This can both be used as a question and a statement, like may I or you may. Literally, it's even if I did the action that's connected to the te form, would it be okay? So, is it okay if I do that action? Like, kiite mo ii, is it okay to ask? Or itte mo ii, is it okay to go? And it doesn't have to be a question, you can give permission as well, like tabete mo ii, you can eat it. Which of course can be made more polite by adding des at the end, like tabete mo ii desu, or tabete mo ii desu ka for a question. And it can actually be made more casual by dropping the mo into just te ii, like itte ii, is it okay if I go?
ちょっと聞いてもいいですか？
すみません、トイレに行ってもいいですか？サインお願いしていいですか？
もちろん。
それまんじゅうか？食べていい？
フェイ、やめるんです。ここで戦ってはいけません。
You can also express strong prohibition that you must not do an action with te wa ikemasen. Literally, the te wa is as for doing the action that's connected, ikemasen. It's no good. So you must not do it. This is a very strong prohibition. Like we saw, you must not fight here. Tatakatte wa ikemasen. Or hairu to enter, haitte wa ikemasen. You must not enter. And this te can of course be read as de, depending on the verb that's connected. Like shinu to die, to say that you must not die would be shinde wa ikemasen. You must not die in quite polite speech. And there are actually many different variations of how to express this with varying levels of formality. Like the ikemasen part can actually just be made casual, ikenai, and the tewa can actually be contracted into cha or dewa into ja in more casual speech. And the ikenai part can even be replaced with similar expressions like dame, no good, bad. So shinja dame would be a super contracted casual way of saying shinde wa ikemasen, you must not die.
誰か来るぞ。何者だ？わかりません。
ですが入ってはいけません。
言えない。
喋ってはいけない。私のことを誰にも喋ってはいけない。
忘れないよ。忘れちゃいけないんだ。
死んじゃダメだ、カイネ。
違います。これは私の意思です。必ず戻りますから、あと少し自由にさせてください。
Kara can be used to express the reason or cause for something, because or since, or even so. And it's used following the reason, like kawaii kara, because it's cute, kaitai, I want to buy it. So I want to buy it because it's cute. Since it's cute, I want to buy it. So kara always follows the reason for something, and it can be put following an I-adjective or a verb to express that being the reason, or following nouns or Na-Adjectives with either the casual declarative da before kara, so da kara, or the polite des kara. So like kirei dakara or kirei desu kara, because or since it's pretty, ikitai, I want to go.
この件は理事長と僕らしか知らないですよね。
ええ、知っている人間が多いほど秘密は漏れるものですから。
この程度の船で何感動してんのさ。本当に子供なんだから。
子供とか大人とか関係ないだろ。
俺はまだ仕事がありますから、そろそろ。また新しい依頼いただけるんならいつでも。
お前はもう死んでいる。
You can also use the te-form followed with the verb iru to exist, to express existing doing an action, as in the progressive form or the continuous form. This is often translated as ing, ing in English, like tabeteiru, eating, or sundeiru, living. However, just keep in mind that what is actually being expressed here is an ongoing action or a current state that's the result of a past action. Because of this, teiru can also be used with verbs like shinu, to die, shindeiru. And this doesn't mean to be dying, no. This means to be dead, literally to be in the state of dead, to be dead, because it's expressing existing or being in the state of that verb. So this famous omae wa mou shindeiru doesn't mean you're already dying, but you're already dead. So like kekkon shiteiru would be to be in the state of marry, meaning you are married. But sometimes this is expressed the same as ing in English, like shiteiru, doing. But this is really just literally to be in the state of do. So just be aware of that difference in Japanese. Also in casual speech, sometimes the teiru is just contracted into teru, like hanashiteiru, just contracted into hanashiteru, to be talking.
おばさん、何を食べてるのかしら。チーズだ。おばさん、チーズを食べてる。
私はいいの。誠はちゃんと勉強してるの？
うん、やってるよ。家族は？
息子が一人が。
へえ、結婚してるんだ。
おそらくそいつがネックレスを持っている。
いや、お前はもう俺の知ってるセフィロスじゃない。
なんだと？私のどこが太ってるっていうのよ。
この町のどこかにマスター・ライラスと呼ばれる人物が住んでいるはずじゃ。
エアリス、あのさ、後で電話するよ。お客さんが来てるんだ。
Some other verbs that can be a little bit tricky when used in the progressive form teiru are verbs like iku, to go, and kuru, to come. As we just saw, teiru is really expressing that something is in the state of that verb. And so while tabeteiru is eating, being in the state of eat, iku, to go, iteiru is not going, but actually have gone, to be in the state of having gone, to have left. Literally, it's just a combination of the two verbs. Iku being put in the te form, so connecting to the next action, and then iru to exist. So they went and they are there, wherever that is. Same with kuru, to come, kiteiru. This is not coming, but it's actually that they've already come and they are here. They exist there. Kiteiru.
王様は町の様子を見に行っている。すぐに戻るから心配するな。
いや、それより中岡は来てるか。
中岡さんやったらちょうど2階に行ってはるけど。
そうか。
お母さん、誰か来てるよ。
来てるよ。こんばんは。
まだ任務は終わっていません。でも無事で何よりです。
And the progressive form teiru conjugates exactly the same way as the iru verb does. So as iru to exist is an Ichidan verb or a ru verb, you could make this polite with teimasu, or negative with teinai, negative polite with teimasen, and so on. So owatteimasen, to not be finished. Or in casual speech, kiku, to hear or to listen, kiteinai, I haven't heard.
俊介さん、私まだあなたに聞いていないことがあります。
メリルは無事なのか。
女は死んでいない。
あの夜、学校に車が止まっていませんでしたか。
そういえばしばらく食べてなかったな。
冬は長いんだよ。冬は登校が大変だから休みが長いのさ。
And so you can use a combination of the wa and ga particle with adjectives to describe a part of a thing or a person with wa, ga adjective. So like for example here, この店はラーメンが有名です. Literally, as for this shop, この店は the ramen is what is, ラーメンが有名です. It's famous. And so this is just the wa topic marker, marking what you're about to add information about. So we're adding information about the ramen shop. And then ramen ga, so being marked by the ga subject marker, this is what is a certain way, yume desu. It is famous. So you can use this to describe a whole bunch of things like kare wa, as for him, so now we're going to add information about him, kami ga nagai, his hair is long, or me ga ookii, his eyes are big. And if the topic is already set or it's obvious what you're talking about, you don't need to restate what you're talking about with the topic marker. So you can just use something ga adjective, like koe ga chisai. Voice is quiet. But in this context, we know we're talking about your voice, so you don't have to repeat that. You can just say koe ga chisai. Your voice is quiet.
ちょっとさきちゃん、声が大きいわよ。
声が小さい。
だって忍者ちゃんはもっと背が高いんだから。
頭がいいんですね。
さっきの少年。
レックスって言います。とっても元気で優しい人です。
And so we previously learnt the te form for verbs, but now we have the te form for adjectives and nouns. And these also have a te form that can be used to connect the adjectives or nouns in a very similar way to like and, like genki de yasashii, lively and kind. So to form the te form with I-Adjectives, simply drop that final I and replace it with kute. So like ookii, big, ookikute. It's big and. With Na-Adjectives and nouns, they both behave exactly the same way, so you can just add de following them. Like shizuka de, it's quiet and ...
やはりこの木の下には球根が。白く大きくて美味しそうだな。
確かに明るくて元気な子ね。
静かで落ち着く場所だね。いい天気だし気持ちがいいよ。
そうなんだ。あ、だったらパフェでも食べに行く？
You can express going somewhere for a specific purpose with must stem ni iku, to go to do a verb. So like we just saw, tabe ni iku. So here we have the must stem of tabemasu, tabe, followed by ni iku, to go for the purpose of. So to go to eat, or like 買います to buy, 買いに行く to go for the purpose of buying, to go to buy. This can also be used with 来る to come, so like 話しに来る to come for the purposes of talking, to come to talk.
新米のホストがスーツ買いに行くような店だ。高級ブランドなんかは置いてねえが。
悪い。今日はこんなこと話しに来たわけじゃないんだ。
生き残りを助けに行くぞ。
アディオ、お前は一人じゃねえぞ。
We saw a little bit earlier that there's many different ways of counting things. And here now we have the counter for people, nin. There are very few exceptions, but this is generally read as nin for counting people. So first, the way to say one person, this is one of the exceptions, is hitori, one person. Futari is another exception, two people. But then after that, all the rest use the nin reading. So you just follow a number with nin, like sannin, three people, yonin, four people. Not yonnin, but just yonin. Gonin, five people. Rokunin, six people. Nana or shichinin for 7 people, hachinin for 8 people, kyunin for 9 people, and junin for 10 people.
さーて集まったな2人とも。これから第7班で任務に入るぞ。
こうして3人無事に合流できたんだ。
そこの4人動くな。
いいか、義乳特戦隊ってのは今の俺、いやそれ以上かもしれん。そんな奴らが5人もいるんだ。
6人が死んだ。
ええ、これで残りはあと7人ですね。
仕方ねえだろう。8人もいいんだから。テレビちっせえんだよ。
よく見ると描かれている9人の女性が何か持っていますね。
この牢におりました。
6人が入るかという大きさ。
いいえ、10人以上いました。
この傷を見るがいい。私が母親となった証拠だ。
Now we finally have the casual form in Japanese. First, taking a look at the casual form for verbs. The casual form of verbs is made from the dictionary form, and it can be used in two different ways in Japanese. First, when speaking in casual Japanese, it can be used at the end of a sentence, in place of where you would use mas in polite speech, like terebi o mimasu, watch TV. You can say terebi o miru. This is casual speech in Japanese. This is now the form that you would use when you speak to people that you're really close with, like family and friends. This expresses a level of closeness and familiarity with the person you're speaking with, whereas being polite might feel a little bit distant, as being polite can create a bit of a distance between the speaker and the listener. However, just be really careful, as being polite in Japanese culture is really important, especially with seniority. Personally, I use the polite form unless I'm really like buddy-buddy with someone, then I'll switch to casual form Japanese. The casual form is also referred to as the short form in the Genki textbook. And how the casual form functions differently to the polite form is that you can actually use this mid-clause or expression, like we saw in the opening clip, miru ga ii, you should look, or like we'll see in just a bit, kare wa ashita kuru to omoimasu, I think that he will come tomorrow. You cannot use the polite form in this way in the middle of a clause or an expression. Only the casual form of verbs can be used like this. The polite form, mas, always needs to come at the end of a sentence or a clause. So first, looking at verbs, you can reverse conjugate a polite form verb into the dictionary form by simply dropping the mas in Ichidan Verbs and replace it with a ru, so like tabemasu into taberu. And for Godan Verbs, drop the mas and change that last I sound into a U sound. So like kikimasu, to hear, is just kiku, or kaerimasu, kaeri turns into kaeru, to return.
これからどうする？店に戻る？それじゃあ私行くね。私もう寝るわ。おやすみ。
お前と飲むのも久しぶりだ。
あなたなら聞くことができる。
可愛いだろ。
For casual form adjectives, I-Adjectives are used just by themselves. Na-Adjectives and nouns, instead of finishing them with des, you now can also use them just by themselves or with the declarative da, like shizuka da, it is quiet, or gakusei da, it is a student. This da is used to declare something, like pointing your finger at something. Kaji da, it's a fire. Pikachu da, it is Pikachu. Also used within expressions like kaji da to omou, I think it's a fire. More on that in just a little bit. However, when it's used at the end of a sentence in casual speech, it's often just dropped, as it's a little bit too declarative. So instead of genki desu ka, are you well? In casual speech, you would just finish it with a rising tone without the ka question particle. As previously mentioned, the ka question particle when used in casual speech makes it a little bit too strong of a question. So it would just be genki, and the response would just be, genki, yeah, I'm well. When you add da in conversation, it really feels like you're exclaiming something, declaring it, almost pointing your finger at something. It's a fire, it's Pikachu.
剣よりもお前の方が大切だ。
貴様もドクターゲロの作った人造人間だ。
でも僕は忘れませんから。何があったって忘れない。
To create the casual negative now revolves around nai, to not be. So to turn Ichidan verbs into the nai form or the negative form, just drop the ru and add nai. So wasureru, to forget, turns into wasurenai, to not forget. And for Godan verbs, you need to change that final sound into an a sound and then add nai. So like iku, to go, would be ikanai. Ikanai, to not go. For I-Adjectives, just drop that final I and replace it with kunai. So oki would be okikunai, not big. Na-Adjectives and nouns just follow with janai, to not be. So like ski janai, to not like, or hitori janai, to not be one person, to not be alone.
どうして助けに行かない？
ジェダイは悪夢は見ない。威力自体はさほど大きくないってこと？
こっちのが良くない？
サボテンは好きじゃないよ。
私は一人じゃない。
闇のものなのは間違いないでしょう。
ああ、私もそう思う。そうなると、その砦にラングリッサーが。
そうですね。可能性は高いと思います。
Okay, so now you can actually express what you think in Japanese with the verb omo, to think. To do this, you need to have whatever you think in the casual form followed by to omo, or in polite speech, to omoimasu. The to particle here marks as a kind of quotation, marking what information you omo, think. Kind of like that, I think that. Like oishii to omo, I think that it's delicious. Or kirei da to omo, I think that it's pretty. You can also express the negative with both either having the information itself in the negative form or with omo in the negative form. So like you could say, omoshirokunai to omotta, I thought it wasn't interesting. Or you could say, omoshiroi to omowanakatta, I didn't think that it was interesting. So the difference here is the nuance in what's being expressed. Either you thought something that was negative, you thought it wasn't interesting, or you didn't think something positive. I didn't think that it was interesting. You can express both.
あ、やっぱり言わなきゃよかった。いや、悪いことじゃないと思う。それが自分の信じることになるなら、自信にも力にもなるだろう。
おかしいと思いませんか？
確かに。
私だって怖くないわけじゃないよ。っていうか怖いと思わなかったことなんて一度もない。そうなんですか？
その子は俺と結婚するんだ。俺のこと好きなんだから。
いつ私があなたを好きだと言いましたか？
You can also quote what someone says with to itta or to iimashita. This again being the quoting particle to with the verb iu. to say. So literally quoting what someone says. So like あなたを好きだと言いました said that I like you. So this is a direct quote of what someone said. Like 面白いと言った said that it was interesting. You can also use the progressive past form of 言う to say 言っていた or 言っていました Literally, they were saying that. This kind of has a nuance that you were there when they said that information and you're kind of painting the picture, painting the scene of what they were saying. They were saying that ...
そしてそういった問題に関わろうとする私や暁と距離を置いた。彼女は彼女なりのやり方でエオルゼアの明日を模索すると言っていました。きっと今回もそのために闇の戦士を。
完全に王子って知ってたね。
ま、しっかり隠してもいなかったろ。
新聞記者と言っていたな。乗船できるかはともかく敵対はしたくない。
嫌だと言ったら
嫌か？
触るなと言ったでしょ。そっとしておいてやるんだ。てめえ調子に乗るなよ。
単刀直入に言います。今日の上野義晴の襲撃、真島さん、行かないでください。
To request politely for someone to not do an action, or to refrain from some action, you can use the negative casual form of a verb followed by でください, like ないでください. Please don't do, and then connected to the action, asking not to do. Like 行かないでください, please don't go. Or 見ないでください, please don't look. Or 気にしないでください, please don't worry about it. It can also be used in a casual request, just as ないで, like 行かないで, don't go.
見ないでください。
気にしないでください。
あの子たちに手を出さないでください。
やめろ。
ダメ、撃たないで。お願い、伊達さん。私を置いていかないで。
え？暇な時にこの店で本を読むのが好きなんだ。
Verb no ga. So with the casual dictionary form of a verb, you can also create a noun phrase when followed by no ga. Literally, it's the thing of that action. Verb no ga. Like for example, hon o yomu, to read a book. You could say hon o yomu no ga suki. I like reading books. Literally, the thing of reading books I like. So this can be used to create a statement about a certain action, talking about that action like it was a noun. Like, 話をするのが the thing of talking 嫌いだ, I don't like. Or 教えるのが上手です, the act of teaching they're good at. Or maybe poor at something with 下手, とぼけるのが下手だ, I'm bad at playing dumb.
俺はめんどくせえ話をするのが嫌いでな。
きっと天職なんだと思いますよ。アネットは人に教えるのが上手ですし。
とぼけるのが下手だな。そりゃ知ってたって顔だぞ。
気づくのが遅いよ、おやさん。
死ぬのが怖くないのか、コナ。
星が死ねばこのあでやかに燃えるお前の故郷が消えてしまう。
And now finally we have the ga subject marker. Oh my. Personally, I would have put this all the way in lesson 1, as this is an incredibly essential part of Japanese. I don't know why GENKI is putting it here at grammar point 63. This is such an important particle that beginners often get confused with the wa particle. But actually, it's really straightforward to tell the differences between the two particles. The ga particle marks what is in a certain state or what does a certain action. It is pointing the finger at what is a certain way or what does a certain thing. It marks what has a certain quality, like これが面白い. This is what is interesting. Or pointing the finger at who or what does an action. 彼が日本に行く. He will go to Japan. Ga marks the subject of the sentence, meaning who is doing a certain action or being a certain way. Take for example this sentence. Pikachu wa versus Pikachu ga. Already, you could actually have an intuition about what the following pieces of information are going to be just by the differences of these two particles. Pikachu wa indicates that we're going to be adding some information about Pikachu, some sort of general truths or facts. It sounds like the speaker is going to tell you something about Pikachu in a kind of general or contrastive way. Like, Pikachu wa kiroi. Pikachu is yellow. Literally, as for Pikachu or regarding Pikachu, he's yellow. It's just a general statement about Pikachu. It's adding information about Pikachu. But Pikachu ga now has a feeling like the Pikachu is going to be performing some action or being a certain way. The emphasis, the focus, is on the act or the state of Pikachu, rather than a general fact about Pikachu. It's like spotlighting Pikachu as the doer, or the thing that's newly relevant. Like, Pikachu ga shinkashita. Pikachu has evolved. So Pikachu did that action. Or Pikachu ga katta. Pikachu has won. So the difference between the two particles is Pikachu wa is speaking of Pikachu. It's adding some sort of description, contrast. It's a known topic and you're adding some information about it. Pikachu ga is Pikachu is the one who, so now it's new information with an emphasis on the action or the state of Pikachu, often with some sort of unexpected news. It's not a general fact. The ga particle marks who is doing an action or who is being a certain way, whereas the wa particle is used to just add general information about a topic.
その曲は私が書いたわ。
見ろよ。鼻の骨が折れてる。
鼻血が出てるだけだよ。
じゃあ行くか。
私が一人で行く。
マスターは誰だ？パダワン。私が消した誰かか？
お花、何か話したがってる。何か言いたいことがある。
In Japanese, you can express something with nanika and not anything with nanimo, used with negative statements. Like we saw in the opening clip, they want to say something, nanika iitai, or like to eat something, or eat anything here in a question. Nanika taberu, will you eat something? And nanimo is used with negative statements, not anything, like nanimo mienai, I can't see anything. And it can also just be used with a negative nai, like nanimo nai, there is nothing or not anything.
こんにちは。で挨拶より何か異変とか困ったことはなかった？
ねえねえひよりさん、何か食べたいものとか飲みたいものとかない？
このカードなんか書いてある。
そうだ、なんか飲む？ 何も食べたくないって言ってるじゃないですか！
こう暗いと何も見えないな。
その先には何もないぞ。ミッション圏外だ。そいつは私の顔を見た。
Now looking at the past tense form for casual or short form verbs. To express the past tense is quite simple for verbs. Simply turn the verb into the te form and replace that te with ta or de with da. So like tabete turns into tabeta, ate, or shinde turns into shinda, died.
お前とラーメン食べたのは久しぶりだな。
君たちの家に行ったぞ。なんだあのありさまは。何を作った？
この辺りで魔物の話を聞いたことはないか？
お前ルーナと話したのか？
そういえばドクターゲロは？
あいつなら死んだ。今さっきな。
しかしなんだ？ここ数十年デスマウンテンは静かだったのによ。
Next, to create the past tense form for adjectives, also covered briefly in the adjective section, for I-Adjectives, just drop the I and replace it with katta. So oishii, delicious, turns into oishikatta, was delicious. And for Na-Adjectives and nouns, instead of using the polite deshita, we now want to use the casual declarative da in its past tense form, datta. So shizuka da, it is quiet, turns into shizuka datta, it was quiet. Or like with nouns, 小学生だ it is an elementary school student, into 小学生だった was an elementary school student.
そうかもな。
でもライブの時のはるかちゃんは可愛かったな。
ずっと昔の記憶だ。私がまだ小学生だった頃の。
俺の仲間をどこかで見なかったか？
君の仲間？見てないよ。
To create the casual negative past, we simply conjugate the nai form like an I-Adjective. So we drop that last I and we replace it with katta. This is true for all negative forms. So for verbs, minai, to not see, turns into minakatta, did not see. Omoshirokunai, not interesting, turns into omoshiroku nakatta, was not interesting. Futsu janai, to not be normal, turns into futsu janakatta, was not normal. And finally, with nouns like yume for a dream, yume janai, to not be a dream, turns into yume janakatta, it was not a dream.
冗談です。
当たり前です。
面白くなかったですか？
全然。
私も知りたい。あの力普通じゃなかったよ。
ごめんなさい、起こしちゃった？
あれは夢じゃなかったの？
いいえ、夢じゃないの。
白ってただの口うるさい本じゃなかったんだね。
無礼なやつめ。
知らない人なのに、なんだろう、懐かしいような。
We saw a little bit previously how adjectives can be used to modify nouns when you put the adjective before the noun, but this is also true for verbs. You can actually use verbs to modify nouns as well. This needs to be a verb in the casual form, so like shiranai, to not know. You could now modify hito, a person. So a person that you don't know would be shiranai hito. You can also do this with verbs in all kinds of forms, like the continuous form, teiru, to describe a person currently in the middle of an action, like tabeteiru hito, a person eating, or like hon o yondeiru seito, a student that is reading a book.
この辺りで話を聞いてみましょう。知ってる人がいるかもしれないわ。
大規模な軍事演習の直後だ。もう寝ている者も多いだろう。
校内で新聞を読んでいる生徒も見たことがないですし。
おい、僕さん、もう釣りした？
Next, we have more and mada. More can be used with the past tense form of a verb to express having already done that action. Like, mo tabeta, have you already eaten? Or mo tsurishita, have you already gone fishing? And mada can be used with the progressive form to express still doing something. Like, mada kakushiteiru, still hiding. And it can also be used with the negative progressive form to express still or not yet doing something. Like it's still or it's not yet finished. Mada owatte imasen.
もうよその学校に行きました。
気が早いな。まだ終わってないよ。
しかしまだ終わっていません。最後の戦いが残っている。
大佐、まだ俺に隠していることがあるのか？
大丈夫か？
まあ平気。嘘。やっぱまだ混乱してる。 じゃあおめえは地球の未来よりご飯の勉強の方が大事だって言うんか？当たり前だ。ご飯ちゃんの勉強の方が大事に決まってるだよ。
You can express a comparison between two things in Japanese with yori no hoga to mean A yori, more than A, B no hoga. B is what is more, and then of a certain quality. Like we saw in Dragon Ball, more than the future of the planet, Chikyu no mirai yori, more than that, Gohan's study is more important. So Gohan no benkyou no hoga daiji. Literally, yori means than, so the thing you're comparing than, and no hoga is the way of, or the side of, is da da da. So another example would be ore yori, than me, お前の方が強い, you are stronger. So you are stronger than me? So just remember that the thing marked by yori is lesser and the thing marked by no hoga is more. And this expression can also be used without clearly stating what is less. So just with something no hoga quality. Like watashi no hoga o-nee-chan. I am more of a bigger sister. Or watashi no hoga tsuyoi. I am stronger.
この俺よりお前の方が強いだ。お前はこの国よりも他の国の方が大事なのか。
私全然追いつけない。それはね、私の方がお姉ちゃんだからです。
終わりだアナキ。私の方が有利だ。
今度の敵は竜帝と呼ばれるドラゴン族の中でも最強のやつだ。
You can also express a comparison between 3 or more items with something no naka de, literally among or in the group of. Naka here meaning inside, and then the not particle connects to a category of something that you're comparing. Like for example, the 4 seasons. Kisetsu. Among the 4 seasons, kisetsu no naka de, when do you like the most? Itsu ga ichiban suki? This expression is often used paired with ichiban, the most, to express what is the most of a certain quality. So category no naka de, among that category, and then something ga ichiban quality. So that noun is what's most of that quality. Like ichiban tsuyoi, the strongest, or ichiban takai, the most expensive, and so on.
皆さん、この中ではあなたたちが一番強いと思う。
お礼を言うのは私です。今までの人生の中で今が一番満たされてます。
彼女たちの知り合いの中で一番あれが大きいのは誰？
でもさ、あんなでっかいのどうやって倒すんだ？
Now, when you're talking about a certain noun in Japanese, and it's clear what you're referring to, and you don't want to have to keep repeating it over and over again, you can actually use the not particle to refer to that noun instead. Like, let's say, for example, you've caught a bunch of Pokemon, and you want the big one. Instead of saying, Oki Pokemon ga hoshii, I want the big Pokemon, you could just say, I want the big one. Oki no ga hoshii, I want the big one. Here, no for one represents the Pokemon being talked about. Or let's say you're talking with your friends and you're talking about shoes. And it's clear you guys are talking about shoes. Instead of being like the black shoes, the white shoes, the brown shoes, you could just refer to them as adjective no. Like kuroi no, the black ones, or akai no, the red ones. This is an incredibly common piece of language. Just remember that you need to have an adjective or a verb before the not particle, modifying the not particle so everyone knows what it is you're talking about. Like netteiru no, the sleeping one, shiroi no, the white one, shizuka no, the quiet one.
好きなのを選んで。ドラゴン、ストームクロークの暗殺者。
あれは何だ？
この丸いのも魔物？
そっか。ライムはそういう可愛いのが好きなんだ。
俺が欲しいのはもっと別の。自分で勝ち取る何かだ。
ハートレスたちよ。白いのは放っておいて、空たちを懲らしめてやりな。
この緑色のは本当に果物なの？一体何の実なのかしら？
吸い上げているのは確かに我々だったが、浪費しているのは誰だろうな。
ありがとう、フレスベルグ。
あれはイゼル？何をするつもりだ？
つもり intend to. This is used after a verb to express the intention to do or not do that action. So like if you intend to study every day, you can say 毎日勉強するつもりです. I intend to study every day. If you intended on doing something like in the past tense, you can use つもり with でした or だった. And if you don't intend on something, You can express this both with the verb in the nai form, followed by tsumori, like 食べないつもりです. I intend to not eat. And you can be even stronger, emphasizing that you don't have the intention for something with つもりはない. Literally, there is or you have no intention. Like 食べるつもりはない. I have no intention to eat it.
この戦争を終わらせ、平和を取り戻すために力を尽くすつもりです。
お前、どういうつもりだ？
いや、話して。私何をするつもりですか？
ダーパ局長は殺すつもりはなかったんだな。
だよね。みんな強く強く生きてる。時々それ感じて嬉しくなるんだ。
You can use the verb naru to become, connected to adjectives and nouns to express becoming that adjective or becoming that noun, like 学生になる, to become a student. To use this with I-Adjectives, you need to drop that last I and replace it with ku naru. So 嬉しい for happy would be 嬉しくなる to become happy. For nouns and Na-Adjectives, simply follow them with ni naru to become. So 静かになる to become quiet, or 先生になる to become a teacher. And of course, this naru can be conjugated in all the different ways verbs can be. Like you could express the past tense, ni natta, or ku natta, to have become, or becoming with ni natteiru or ku natteiru, and so on.
ずいぶん立派になったな。
僕は大きくなったらね、大きな船に乗るような立派な海の男になるんだ。
ヨナはずっと眠っていたの？
ああ。
物語のお姫様になったみたいね。
さあ、これで邪魔者はいなくなりましたわ。始めましょう。
これは熱い試合になりそうだ。
フロア移動はエレベーターを使え。どこかにエレベーターがあるはずだ。それを探すんだ。
In Japanese, you can express unknown things like people or places with どこか、誰か, and 何か. So どこか is a combination of どこ for where and then the ka question particle. So somewhere. Or 誰か someone. And 何か something.
残る2つはどこに？
わからないけど、きっとどこかにあるはずよ。
ただ
人は誰かを守るために、本当に大切なものを守るために命を懸けることができる。
何か食べるものをもらえないか？
大切な何かを忘れている気がする。
お前はもうどこにも行けない。誰も救えない。
どこにも、誰も, and 何も can now be used to express nowhere, no one, or no thing, nothing, not anything. And these are used with negative statements, like どこにも行けない. You cannot go anywhere. Each of these do have subtle different variations with different particles. Like どこにも, nowhere, could also be どこへも, or even どこでも for anywhere. 何も for nothing could also be 何にも in a bit more casual speech, or even 何でも for anything. And 誰も for no one can also be 誰にも to no one or by no one, and even 誰でも anyone.
ちょっとどこへ行くの？
別にどこへも行かないが。
ここはアラスカだ。外に出ればどこでも寒い。
この辺りは誰も住んでないのか？
お前には誰も守れない。
まだ何も言ってないだろう。ここは暗くて何も見えないな。
友達たくさん作りたいです。殺したい。
To express that you want to do something in Japanese, you can do that with たい. Simply follow a verb in the must stem and then follow it with たい to express you wanting to do that action. Like, 食べたい, I want to eat it. 作りたい, I want to make it. 殺したい, I want to kill. And this, of course, can be made polite by adding des at the end. Like, 作りたいです, I want to make it. 食べたいです, I want to eat. And actually, たい functions like an I-Adjective. So you can conjugate it in the exact same way that I-Adjectives are conjugated. Just drop the I and add the conjugation. Like, 見たい to want to see. 見たくない to not want to see. 見たかった wanted to see. You can also use this within a sentence, like connected to と思う to think. This makes it a bit softer. You think that you want to do the action, like 行きたいと思う. I think that I want to go. Or you can even quote what someone says, like if someone said they wanted to go with という. Like maybe your friend said they want to go to Japan. You could say 日本に行きたいと言った. They said that they wanted to go to Japan. And finally, if you want to express what someone else wants to do, you can't actually use たい by itself because it's used to express what you want, the first person. So instead, you need to use たがる, seems to want. This is what's used when you're talking about other people. So they seem like they want to do something, like 行きたがる or 行きたがっている. They seem like they want to go.
皆さんどこにいるんだろう。早く会いたいです。
もうやめようよ。僕は本当は戦いたくないんだ。殺したくないんだよ。
関係ないと思った。ただ、私は彼女の笑顔が見たかった。
あなたに会いたがっている。それ以外何があるの？
でも、ズロと一緒に旅したり、一緒にご飯食べたり、一緒に空を飛んだり、一緒に喧嘩したり、一緒に仲直りしたり、すっごく楽しかったよ。
As we saw previously, you can connect two actions together in sequential order with the te-form, but you can also connect actions together in a non-sequential order with tari tari suru. This means to do things like A and B. So you're listing actions or activities that are done. Things like. To form this, just put a verb in the past tense form and then follow it with ri, like 食べたり, do things like eat. 飲んだり, do things like drink. 喧嘩したり, do things like fight. And often the final action will be finished with たりする to kind of finish off the listing.
なんで人間を殺したり家を壊したりするんですか？
どこか痛かったり苦しかったりしないか？
閉塞のタイミングが早かったり遅かったりしてパワーバンドを少しでも外したらドンケツになると思えよ。
でも私たちにはみんながいるじゃない。一緒にワクワクしたり怖がったり喜んだり、みんな仲間でしょ。
私はフラジャイル。
あんたの噂は聞いたことがある。
光栄ね。
ことがある, when used following the past tense form of a verb, can be used to express that you have the experience doing that action, like you have done it before. Literally, the thing of having done that, ある, it exists, you have it, the experience. For example, 聞いたことがある, I've heard it before. Or 食べたことがある, I've ate it before. This ある can also be used in polite speech with あります, like 飲んだことがあります. I've drunk it before. And even with the negative by turning ある into ない or ありません. And ことはある is also possible when used in a kind of contrastive sense, as the wa particle can be used. This is just a combination of こと, the thing of, so the thing of doing that action, wa, as for that, ある, it exists. And this is used in a contrastive way. Like, 飲んだことはあるけど, I've drunk it before, however, 食べたことはない, I haven't eaten it before, right? It's used in a contrastive sense with the wa particle.
ここには来たことがあるんだ。俺と空で。
そうなの？
そんなんで治るか。昔こんな光景を見たことがあります。
そんな魔物の話は聞いたことがないな。
この女性を見たことはありませんか？
いえ、知りませんね。
あんな建物は見たことがありませんもん。
両親、兄弟、
恋人や里の仲間たち、自分にとって大切な人たち。
Previously, we learned that we can use the to particle to create an exhaustive list of something, like just those things is what you're talking about. But now we have ya, and this can be used to create a non-exhaustive list. Things like for example, ringo to banana would be just apples and bananas. There's nothing else, that's all they're talking about. But ringo ya banana, it's non-exhaustive. There could be many other things, but it's just listing some examples, with a subtle context that there are other things as well. Like we saw just now in Naruto, listing people that are important to you. So as there may be others as well, and they're just listing some examples of people that are important, they use the ya particle instead of the to particle. So people like lovers and fellow villagers, or guys like Vegeta and Frieza. Vegeta ya Frieza.
ガキの頃からあのベジータやフリーザを相手に戦ってきたんだ。強くもなるだろ
う。もしそういうことなら、私の敵は一人や二人じゃありません。
ま、武器や装備のことや敵の兵器について聞きたいことがあったら、俺に先導してくれ。じゃあな。
なあ、開けてくれないか。もうそろそろ限界で。トイレ行きたいんだよ。
When explaining something in Japanese, you can emphasize this explanation by giving the sentence an explanatory tone by ending it with nda, noda, ndes, or nodes. So like for example, toire ni ikitai. I want to go to the toilet. This is just a general statement. I want to go to the toilet. But let's say you really badly want to go to the toilet and you're hurrying and rushing and your friends ask you, hey, what's going on? Why are you acting like that? You could explain in an explanatory tone with toire ni ikitai n da or toire ni ikitai n desu. It is that I want to go to the toilet. So as we can see, it's used at the end of the sentence to give it an explanatory tone, like you're explaining something unknown or giving a reason for something, or explaining why something is the way it is. And there are varying levels of formality, with the lowest being nda, ndes, noda, and nodes.
この山、前に訓練で来たけど結構大変なんだよね。
おいおい、お前何やってんだ。
血を分析するんです。その場で分析できるんですよ。
評議会としてはお前に議長の動きを報告してもらいたい。何をしているのか知りたいのだ。
わかりました。
だからこそ危険なのです。
私もあなたが気に入らないのですよ。
それ僕でも使えますか。
お前には重すぎる。
You can express doing something or something being too much in Japanese with sugiru, literally for something to be in excess. To use this, simply follow a verb in the must stem or an adjective in its stem, and then follow it with sugiru, like tabe sugiru, to eat too much, or haya sugiru, to be too fast. So see, hayai, the eat is dropped into the stem, haya sugiru, or shizuka sugiru, it's too quiet. And this sugiru can of course also be conjugated into many different tenses. You could express it politely with sugimasu, the past tense form with sugita or sugimashita, and so on.
魔法を使いすぎるなよ。今日はこれでしまいなんだから。
光の戦士は力を持ちすぎた。神の領域に近づくほどに。
まあ校長の家は一人で住むには広すぎたのじゃろう。
ひどすぎますよ。置き去りにするなんて。
ジスカル様が亡くなって以来、この屋敷は静かすぎました。
喋った方がいいわよ。
ほがいい. So we previously covered how ho can be used to compare between two items. And it can also be used to express that it is better to do something than not do it with verb ho ga i. It is better to. This is literally just ho, the way or the side of, ga is what is, i, good. So it's more good, it's better if you do that. This is used with the past tense form of verbs for positive advice, like you should or it would be better if you did. Like, you should eat, or it would be better if you ate. 食べた方がいい. Or like here, it would be better if you talked. 喋った方がいい. And it can also be used with the negative form of a verb to express that you shouldn't do that action. Or it would be better if you didn't do the action. Like, 見ない方がいい. It would be better if you didn't see. And this e for good can also be conjugated into the past tense form, よかった, to express it would have been better if you did some action, but perhaps you didn't. Like, 食べた方がよかった.
野菜を食べた方がいいんだけど。
俺も連れてってよ。
ダメよ。見ない方がいい。だから言っただろ。今すぐ本当に死んだ方がいい。
まあ、手紙の返事は書いた方がいいぞ。断るんでもな。
やっぱりやめた方がよかった。
あ、話が長くなっちゃうかな。聞かない方がよかったかな。
ありがとうございます。まだ少し時間があるので急がなくても大丈夫です。
ので This is now the more formal, polite way of expressing because or since. It functions in a very similar way to から, giving a reason for something. And it's also used following the reason. Like here, 時間があるので as we have time or since we have time, 急がなくても大丈夫です. You don't need to hurry. Or as today is Sunday, 今日は日曜日なので the banks are closed. So to use this following verbs and I-Adjectives, just use ので following them. Like 行くので as I'm going, or おいしいので as it's delicious. But with Na-Adjectives and nouns, make sure to have na in between both the noun or the Na-Adjective and ので. So like we just saw, 日曜日なので as it's Sunday, or since it's Sunday.
もういいかね。わしは忙しいので失礼するぞ。
危険なのでしばらくこちらで待っていてください。
私は日本語下手なのでうまく伝わるか心配でね。
何を言ってるんです。おとなしく寝ていなければいけませんよ。
なければいけません. You must do something. There are many different variations of how to express that you must do something in Japanese. First, we have the longest and most formal way to express this, with a verb in the nai form, but replace nai with nakereba ikemasen. You must do that action. As you can see, this is quite a long expression, but don't worry, as you can actually break this expression down into different parts to both understand it a bit more easier and also contract parts of it to make it more casual and less formal. So first, nakereba. This is actually the but form, the hypothetical form of nai, not. So literally, if not, nakereba. So if you don't do the action that's connected, ikemasen, it's no good. As in, it's no good if you don't do that action. So you must do it. And both of these parts, nakereba and ikemasen, can actually be modified and made shorter. Nakereba can actually just be contracted into nakya in casual speech, and ikemasen can both be made more casual, like ikenai, but you can even just drop it all together and just say nakya, I've gotta, like tabenakya, I've gotta eat. Literally, if I don't eat, ... There are other variations as well that's not covered in GENKI, like nakereba can actually be replaced with naito, if you don't. And ikenai can also just be replaced with dame, it's no good. So you could even say tabenaito dame, or even just tabenaito. These are all just different variations of how to express that you must do something in Japanese.
言うこと？何の話してんの？
どうしても聞かなきゃいけないことがあんだよ。俺、君に言わなきゃいけないことが。
カレン、僕たちはこの世界で生きていかなきゃいけないんだ。
私はそれを感謝しなくてはいけません。
なんとかしなくちゃいけません。
今日はお子さんは？
今は英会話教室です。もうすぐお迎えに行かないといけません。
俺が行かないとダメなんだ。ガス爆発、確かめなければ。なあ、クラウド。俺、ミッドガルへ行かなくちゃ。
てしまっていいんでしょうか。
And now we have the final grammar point for Genki 1, でしょうか. でしょうか can be used at the end of a sentence to ask a very polite, indirect question. This is more polite and less direct than asking a question with ですか, as it's made up of でしょう for probably and then the ka question particle. So rather than directly asking something, it's more like asking that it's probably the case. Like, could it be that, or would you say that? Like, 寒いでしょうか? Would you say that it's cold? Or 大丈夫でしょうか? This is a very polite way of asking, 大丈夫ですか? Is something or someone okay? Or even, I wonder if something or someone is okay. 大丈夫でしょうか? Or like, 何時でしょうか? I wonder what time it is. Or like politely asking, what is the time? But just in an indirect way. And you can also just use でしょう by itself to make a guess about something. Like, まあ、大丈夫でしょう. I'm sure it will be okay. Or I guess it'll be okay.
すみません。突然ご迷惑でしょうが、少しだけお時間いただけないでしょうか。
ああ、ちょうどよかった。ちょっとよろしいでしょうか。
どちら様でしょうか。先生なら今は。
高巻ですけど。
すぐ行くよ。
君たちちょっといいかな。
はーい。何かご用でしょうか。
スイッチがたくさんある。レオア様、大丈夫でしょうか。
レオアさんたちも行かなければならない理由がある。わかりました。レオアさんたちの実力なら東区へ行っても大丈夫でしょう。
And there we have it, the end of another huge video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video covering every single piece of grammar in the Genki 1 textbook. I've been wanting to finish this video for such a long time. This has actually been several years of work, so it's great to finally have this finished. Hopefully this helps you learn beginner Japanese with Genki 1 in a more enjoyable, fun way. So feel free to use this video to help you learn the Japanese. You can use this for review, get ready for tests. You can jump to the exact part that you want to watch with the timestamps if you want, but I've also released a playlist. So if you just want to watch the individual part, check out the playlist in the video description, and that has every single different part as an individual video, so you can just watch the part you want to see. I may also release them as shorts as well, as some people do like that format. So thank you so much guys for making it to the end of the video. I hope you had fun. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. It helps with the algorithm. And if you really enjoyed the video and you enjoy the channel, then consider joining the Game Gengo community. We have our own private Discord. You can get Japanese help any time of the day, connect directly with the community as well as me, get tips on your Japanese study, talk about things general in Japan. Sometimes we hang out in streams and stuff like that, play games together. So not only can you help support the channel, but you can also join the community. So feel free to do that either directly through the Game Gengo website or through Patreon. An enormous thank you, love heart, to everyone who enjoys these videos, who supports it by pressing the like button, leaving a comment, and especially to everyone supporting the channel as members. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, so thank you so much for all of your support. There's so much more that I have planned, so I hope you enjoyed this video. There's a lot more to come. If there's any videos that you'd like to see this kind of complete style in, let me know in the comments down below. I'm actually looking at focusing a bit more on complete style videos from now on into the future, as well as regular vocab videos. So if you have any cool ideas of complete videos you'd like to see, like complete honorific speech or complete how to ... like all the different ways of how to like apologize in Japanese, or all the different ways of how to order food in Japanese and things like that, I'm looking at creating a whole bunch of complete videos, as I really feel like this is one of the best ways to just cover a whole bunch of language. So if there's anything you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much guys for watching. I hope you all continue to enjoy learning Japanese, and as always, I'll see you all again in the next video. See you guys.